It's a question I keep asking, and I'm grateful for every day that I have, quite frankly, because you don't often survive what I survived. In fact, it was really sobering and bone chilling that after what happened to me happened to a few other male midlife mountain bikers, and they were not so lucky. So it always is a very, very sobering reminder of how lucky we all are every day, the steps we take and the breaths we make and all those sorts of things. How did I get out of there? I don't know.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Be What Works Weekly, where I interview entrepreneurs, business people, and ask them about their journey and hopefully get some takeaways so that you listeners can implement and learn from either other people's mistakes or the successful journeys. And today I'm joined by Adrian Jones. I'm going to call him AJ just because I like AJ. AJ, you've got an interesting story. You're in corporate finance, but you're not in corporate finance anymore.
No.
What
And
happened?
you're more than welcome to call me AJ. Totally fine. Yes, for many years, most of my professional career was spent in financial services, in asset management and wealth management. I went in between those two sectors, if you will, very closely related. And at the time, I was living with my wife and kids. We were living just north of San Francisco in a place called Marin County, California. And I was commuting, get this, 3 hours a day, all told, to get in and out of the financial district from where we lived. But to me, that was my normal. That's what people do to live where we wanted to live and have access to the schools we thought were best for our kids and so forth. Then October 8th, 2016, I went mountain biking with 3 friends of mine. And if you're familiar with that part of the world, it's very hilly. In fact, Marin County is the birthplace of mountain biking. There's a crazy abundance of fire trails and switchbacks to ride and hike and go out on your horse or whatever. But for me, I was on my mountain bike going up an ascent that's a bit of a kick in the shins, if you will.
Yes.
It has some teeth, so to speak. And it's at that point that I suffered a massive widowmaker heart attack. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. How obviously that changed the trajectory of your life, made you, but how'd they get you off the trail?
Yeah.
How are you still here?
It's a question I keep asking, and I'm grateful for every day that I have, quite frankly, because you don't often survive what I survived. In fact, it was really sobering and bone chilling that after what happened to me happened to a few other male midlife mountain bikers, and they were not so lucky. So it always is a very, very sobering reminder of how lucky we all are every day to be able to take the steps we take and the breaths we make and all those sorts of things. My friends, how did I get out of there? I don't know. I mean, we actually kept writing because no one knew what was happening to me, even though I was throwing up all over the place. I was extraordinarily weak. Eventually a pain set in my chest, and that's when I knew something's up, and I thought it was acid reflux or gas because I'm vomiting everywhere, pretty violently. We didn't continue to climb. We just rode on the flats for a bit. Everyone trying to figure out what's going on. They knew something was wrong with me, but I didn't want to end the ride. I didn't want to be that guy, right? I was like,
No,
no, I'm fine.
we
I'm
don't call for
fine.
help. We don't
No,
call 911.
No, I'm fine. It's just merely a flesh wound, right? Like
Right.
it's
Amen.
just it's acid reflux. Let's not make a big deal of this. Well, it was a big deal. It was a very, very big deal.
Yeah.
At one point I got off my bike, and check this out, Mike. I laid spread eagle on the fire trail, very dusty fire trail, and just wailed my chest with my fists, kind of like King Kong, if you want to imagine that, and just trying to evacuate this, what I thought was acid reflux or gas with a burp or something. And of course it never did. And I didn't know what was wrong, still assuming that it was driven by food poisoning or something. Got back on my bike. And at this point, I couldn't control my bike anymore. And we had to walk down to the trailhead. And that was a 40-minute walk. I know this because I was using Strava at the time to record bike rides. And that was the last time I ever did that. And one of my friends had a car at the parking lot at the trailhead at the bottom of the trail. And he raced with me about 4 miles across town to the hospital. And none of us knew what was happening. In fact, I insisted he drop me off at home because my kids were home alone. My wife was traveling for work. And I told him I don't have my wallet. I wasn't talking like this. I was wheezing like an asthmatic, just terrible wheezing and extraordinary pain.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to get him to take me home, and he refused to do it. And thankfully,
Good
he
man.
got me to the hospital, and that's where they told me I was having a heart attack, and they put defibrillators on my chest, and things got very real very quickly for me.
Wow. That's incredible. And how long were you in the hospital?
I was in for 3 days, 2 nights. And I think, this might be a good jumping off point for some things to cover here, but I was working at Schwab at the time in San Francisco, and they were very good to me. No qualms whatsoever. In fact, very grateful. And I was put on leave for a few months. And just after I got out of the hospital, I got home, and I would spend a lot of time in bed asking the meaning of life and why I survived, and what am I supposed to do with the second chance of life? Like, what's the playbook? Is there a playbook? And what is it? And what do I do with it? And so I'd asked the universe, do I go back to that commute? It was a great job. Couldn't complain about the comp plan or anything like that. Like, should I just go back and do that? Or should I do something else? Like maybe resign and become a stay-at-home dad, or become a teacher and try to give back to the greater good in some capacity. And eventually the universe answered in a very sort of lightning bolt to the soul kind of way. And it told me, use your story to help and inspire others. And for me, that was it. I knew that was my new life calling. I signed up for it right away, not knowing how I would do that or in what form it would take and when, but I was all in, and I continue to be all in. And so that got a lot of things moving for me. And frankly, right about that time, I sat down with my wife and said, I think everything on the table has to be considered out beyond our relationship and our family and our close friends, but how I do things, where I do things, like all of that has to change, because I dodged a major bullet. My widowmaker, technically the left anterior descending artery, was fully occluded when I got on the operating table. So I was on a one-way ticket to checking
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Going home would have been going home.
It would have been the ultimate trip home. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. So yeah, let's use this as the moment we leave that story and we start talking about the next chapter. Because I think that what you're about to talk about is something that a lot of people, especially hard drive, type A, let's get it done, the hamster wheel never stops. I think it's what a lot of people yearn for when they talk about their why, things like that. So what does the next chapter look like after recovery?
Yeah, I love this question because it had a little bit of a hiccup along the way. So so I went back to work at Schwab, realized that wasn't for me. I just needed to take a break. I resigned, and they were, again, very good to me on the way out. I got hired by a wealth management firm near my house, and so my commute was gone, basically. And so I had more time to work on this new passion project and still collect a paycheck. And I was just trying to figure out how to help people. I'd blog, I'd get invited on podcasts, I'd do public talks for the American Heart Association, all in the while just trying to tell my story and other stories. I started my own podcast during COVID. That was my podcast project, was to
Nice.
start a podcast called Profound Awesomeness, more for, not so much for fun, but just putting stories out there that hopefully would find the ears of people who need to hear them.
Love it.
And ultimately, I left the world of financial services and started a true trust fall with the universe without like a plan. I just went for it and said, I'm going to lean into this whole world that I love so much, and I'm going to figure out how I can create something that could help people. And ultimately, I launched a business called More in early 2024, targeting Gen Xers who want to get more out of life. Like, my meta strategy is to help people get more out of life. I can help you get there. That is going to bring me so much joy and hopefully help you out in so many ways. So we launched the business last January 2024. And then 3 months later, my wife was traveling. No, excuse me. She was home this one. My kids were at school, and I came home from the gym. My wife was out doing errands, and I stepped into the shower, put shampoo in my hair, and felt another very unwelcome pain in my chest that was extremely familiar. I knew right away what it was. I called my wife, Liz, and she said, hang up and call the 911. I did. 3 minutes, 40 seconds later, the paramedics were outside my house. And it was just like the movies, lights and sirens and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they got me in the ambulance, did a code 3 on me, which emergency call codes. Code 3 is, in the medical sense, is life-threatening situation. Prepare the ER. And so so I'm lucky twice over, quite frankly.
Right.
And as I came out of that, and my cardiologist told me to retire. He's like, you've had 2 of these. Again, another fully occluded left anterior descending artery on the operating table. He's like, it's time for you to take care of your life and just enjoy what you have. And I said, no, I hear that, but I really feel like I have unfinished business. I have this bigger calling to go help people. And I just have to redesign my life to be able to do this. And so what I did is I sat down and really thought about where do I think the true source of joy is? I've been through 2 of these massive health scares. I've had a lot of time to reflect. I've read a bunch of things. I've thought about a lot. And I came up with this concept around, I think the true source of joy is born out of our authenticity. And if we can bring that truth to the surface and share it with others and use it as a compass for who we are and where we want to go in life, like how cool is that? Let's get real. And so I wrote a book, which is coming out in 2026 on this topic around authenticity. And so I've really taken more and turned it into an alignment firm. It helped people who are experiencing that feeling of numb success. Like, what is this? I'm successful on paper, but sure doesn't feel good on the inside. I'm burnout. I'm fried. I'm not excited. I have the Sunday scaries, or however you want to say it, as you prepare to go to bed before a work week.
Yeah.
And I want to help people get into this aligned state of living where you are connecting your authentic self with your actions and your ambitions, and that they all are aligned. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm headed with things with More Now. And I couldn't be more excited, to be honest with you, Mike.
That's awesome.
Can't wait to bring this platform to the world.
Could you share something? Because my expectation is that what you just said resonates with a lot of people, and most of them, and I'm thankful for this, most of them won't have to go through what you went through, but a lot of them, and I know because I have conversations with business people all across the country, and talk to a lot of them, and what I see or what I hear is a lot of them, I wouldn't say don't have, their why isn't strong enough. A lot of them are extremely successful, but they're just not happy, I guess, is the easiest way to say it. And I talked to a really good friend who's got a great business, and he goes, there's part of me that just wants to burn the whole thing down. Like, I really just want to walk away from it because it takes and takes and takes. Then our conversation got deeper in that there are a lot of people that, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, with what the economy's done and income, especially the space I'm in, where the term, it's going to blank on me right now, but financial whiplash. A lot of people were making a ton of money back in 2020, 2021. Stocks were going crazy. He's rich, or at least they felt rich. And then all of a sudden, interest rates go up, everything shifts, and then they lose their footing. I had a really good friend that said during that time, I lost who I was because everything I was tied into the job that I had, and the job that I had made so much money and then all of a sudden it got pulled from me. So this whole idea of, yes, I'm successful in terms of I have money, I make money, I've got the job, blah, blah, blah. But boy, when you pull the curtain back and you see that it's just a little wizard dude that is just unhappy. And that's what they have to live
description.
with. And they've got to,
Gosh.
they've got a lifestyle that they're maintaining. The kids are in travel ball and they've got to do this, they got to do this. And the spouse expects this. And it's almost like they're living a facade. They're living a character that they no longer want to be, I guess, is the easiest way for me to say it. And so then I see divorce rates go up. I see suicide go up. I see drug abuse, gambling, but all of these things. And I sit there and go, oh, I get it. I mean, but I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to help them. So if you don't mind, share some things that you learned, or I'm not going to ask you for tactics because I don't know that tactics are necessarily appropriate, but I think that routine, I think that instilling discipline and challenge, but not necessarily in the traditional term of challenge. Like, I sell real estate. So yes, I could say, well, I want to help 25% more people buy and sell homes next year. Sure, that's a great thing, but I'm having to look outside of the business world and go to connections and go to, I think a lot of people have spent a lot of time trying to be the people pleaser, trying to, have the job and take care of and be what the general public wants them to be. And maybe that's the frustration. The frustration is when you're not your authentic self, you're not being true to yourself, you're you're playing a character that isn't you.
You got it. You're writing my business
Okay, well,
plan.
that was
Yes.
easy. All right. Thank you very much, AJ. Have a
Hey, it was great. It was great being on the show, Mike. Thanks. That was awesome. Yeah, you nailed it. And that's exactly right. And that's the people that I'm talking with right now, just like that. And men, women, they're going through something similar to what you just described. It's a pain. It's this burnout. It's a sense of feeling fried, trapped, stuck. And ultimately, in my mind, it all rolls up to being misaligned. And that misalignment is your core self, your core authentic truth, and your actions on the outside, and they're not in line with each other. And so I think what high achievers need to check in with, and I call this radical honesty. This is something that I preach about within the More platform, is you've got to learn to be radically honest with yourself, because I don't know that we ultimately are. We don't take off all the masks. We don't get all those expectations and go put them in the closet, the expectations from our spouses, our parents, our society, or whatever it is, and just be like, what do I want? What do I care about? What are my non-negotiables? And then once we identify those, and it's not being selfish, it's just finding yourself again and letting that truth come out. And then we start building forward. And I think, you talked about at the end there of your description of this avatar type person is, I like to say, stop shoulding your pants. And no, I didn't say a naughty word. Like, should can kind of be like kind of a problem, because
Right.
we should do that. I should do that. I'm just shooting all over myself. Why? Yeah, we have responsibilities. We have bills to pay. I get it. I'm not suggesting that you do something radical and burn the thing down tomorrow. That's not at all what I'm suggesting, but I do encourage people to think about an intentional approach with daily movement, daily action, because action begets action, or momentum begets momentum, and you gain clarity by taking steps in the direction you want to go. So, one of the things you said you didn't want tactics, but one thing that I would think about is, are you saying I should do this or I want to do this? And there are a few like things in life where you should do this. You should, provide for your family and take care of your family and take your loved ones, of course. But if it's ripping your soul apart and you're miserable, at what cost is it
Right.
worth it? Do not be like me. Do not. I don't wish it on anyone. Survival rates aren't great. So get ahead of yourselves before a health scare or a health challenge really forces it upon you. And then the last thing I just want to comment on, there's a lot of soothing behaviors. I cannot talk today. My goodness. Self-soothing behaviors, gambling, excessive drinking, prescription medications to calm anxiety. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Well, what's the root cause of that? Those are Band-Aids. That's not addressing the symptom, and we've got to get to the symptom and be really okay with that's okay. And let's tackle it. And you can make changes, and everything is figure outable. And I'm not trying to be preachy, but I left California. I'm a native Californian. I loved growing up there. I love raising my kids there. But for me, it didn't make sense. And I felt like there was another place that we could live that afforded me, quite frankly, more financial freedom than living in California.
Yeah.
And so I got off that hamster wheel. I said, you know what? I can't believe I'm going to do this, but this is for my soul. This is for my health. This is for my well-being. I'm going to make this change, and I'm going to be down with it, because I'm going to go on adventure mode and get out of autopilot mode, because that wasn't serving me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Switch gears altogether. Yeah. And sometimes a new place, new location, new habits, new everything. Where'd you end up going?
Coastal North Carolina, down in the southeastern part of the state in Wilmington.
Did you really? Good for you. I got a lot of buddies in North Carolina. They love it. I've got a friend in Charleston, two friends in Charleston trying to get me to go over to Southern California. We're getting
So
overrun with Californians in Reno. So
yes, you are, and they're moving in
yes.
droves to the Carolinas, as we've found out.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh goodness. Well, that'll be exciting. But I've heard great things about the East Coast, especially the Carolinas. I'm all for you giving tactics, to be honest with you. I like simple, clear direction. My assistant knows it. My wife knows it. They this is what you do. This is how you do it. I consider it bumpers in life. If people go, hey, don't do this, do this. So if you've got a few tactics that somebody listening that might, maybe this story really resonates with them, and they're not at a point yet where they're going to raise their hand and say, hey, I really want to make a change, because what you did was pretty drastic. Leaving a good job, making good money in a great, I mean, I grew up in California, and I love the land itself. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily agree with a lot of the people that run it, but it is gorgeous and a wonderful place to be. So we're going to be in San Francisco this weekend, actually. So I'm 50-50. I want to see. My wife and I got married at City Hall in San Francisco, which is one of the most beautiful buildings in the United States. And um, I haven't been back since COVID, because everybody says how bad the city is. But we're going to go back and spend a few days, and we'll see how that goes. But for you to give up the life that you had, I mean, it's a pretty big deal. I can't imagine that a lot of people in the same situation, without going in for surgery 2 times, are going to go, hey, I haven't received my wake up call.
Yeah, I hope they don't have to get the one I did. I hope they can get there on their own. Um, I would encourage people who are listening to this and want to just start taking some baby steps, right? Like, it's not a burn it all down situation. It's more like, what's one daily action I can bring into my life that could be helpful? And I think what I would encourage people to do is, speaking of radical honesty, I do one really honest check-in with yourself, and make a decision or agree with yourself and hold yourself accountable to take an action that brings um, your outer life and your actions on the outside in line with your inner truth. And that requires a bit of work to know what your inner truth is, and that's where that radical honesty is. But when you just sit with yourself and figure out what are your non-negotiables, what are your core values that you just hold on to dearly, it starts to become a little bit clearer. And then when you start taking those actions, so here are some examples. Choose a version of yourself that you actually want, and what's one habit that you could start building towards. Maybe another idea is there's come up with an obligation that is not yours anymore, but you keep doing it. Why? Maybe there's something we can cut loose. And
What would be an example of that?
it could be really anything. You're on the board of a school, or any board, not just school. I'm not picking on the education.
I say yes to too many things.
Yeah, and
And whether it's some type of an obligation, even though as soon as I say yes, I go back home and my wife goes, "Why did you say yes?" Well, I mean, they're nice, and I don't want to hurt their feelings, and da da da. And my wife says, "No, that's you. You can't keep giving," because her big thing was givers give, and there is no limit. But the inverse is true. Takers take, and they have no limit either. So at some point in time,
yeah,
you got to set up boundaries that protect yourself.
that's exactly right. It's that boundary to protect yourself, and I'm a lot like you, I think, in that regard. It's really hard for me to say no, but there's something out there that you're doing in your life that just doesn't serve you anymore. And if you stepped away, what would happen? And what would be the worst thing that would happen? And what would be the best thing? What's the best thing that could come of that decision? And then the final piece, I'll go back to my should and shoulding your pants. Replace a should in your life or a should in your day or a should in some component of what you're doing, and replace it with a want. Just change like, I want to do this. I want this. And maybe you could create the I want exercise where you get a piece of paper and you go someplace where no one can disturb you. You put in some nice chill music, whatever gets you in a good state of mind, do some deep breathing and be like, I'm going to write a list of what I want. And I'm going to see what comes out of it, and then sort of lump those I want ideas. And these aren't wants with caveats. These aren't wants with if-then statements. This is like, I want to become a podcaster. I want to not have a 3-hour daily commute. I want to ride horses like I did as a kid, whatever it is. Make that list, see what comes up, and then come up with like a top 3 you're going to start taking these micro steps towards. And that, I'm sure, will bring clarity about where people want to go.
I love that. Yeah. And it's the micro steps. I mean, go back to, there are a number of books, so I always hit the same one, Atomic Habits, but it's a little shift here. It's a little shift here. It's a
You bet.
teeny increment. I like that. And I really did. When you first said shooting the bed, I thought you said the classic, and then I took a second. So I'm going to use that. And I like want. I've got a lot of people right now that say, there's 2 versions of you. There's one that acts, and then there's one that thinks. And the one that thinks is going to sit exactly where they are, thinking and thinking. The one that acts, even if that version fails, they learn, they go. So I really like that side of it. If somebody's listening and they'd like to have a further conversation with you, they'd be interested in the book, how can they get a hold of you?
Thank you for that. And I would love to hear from people. So the company website is Be More Aligned, BEMORE, aligned.com. And then I can be reached at hello@bemorealigned.com. So please reach out if you've got ideas, feedback, want to get involved, want to learn more about more. I'd love to hear from you. And finally, I do have a podcast. If you like what I'm saying and what my message is here, it's called Code 3: Life Reinvented. And Code 3 is an honor to being in that ambulance when the paramedic called it in. Just sort of a wake-up call. Hopefully people's wake-up call is not as dramatic as mine.
Well, and that's what we all strive for, right? Is learn from my mistakes, save yourself some time and trouble, and in this case, save yourself a lot of time and trouble. Go be happy. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time,
Exactly.
AJ. Thank you so much, and I wish you the best. And I'll be grabbing the book.
Hey, Mike, thanks so much. I appreciate this opportunity. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thanks again.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.